I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Common Council November 9th, 5:30 meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bruce Lechner.
Here.
Tim Sharota is absent. Gary Payson Jr.
Here.
Ron Dunwoody.
Here.
Scott McClory.
Here.
Ken Minell.
Here.
Carol Young. Here.
Next, open public comment. Anybody here for public comment? With nobody here for public comment, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like these separated, or can we do them both together?
Do them both together.
Okay. So we have the council meeting minutes, October 17th, 2022, and the temporary Class B beer licenses for the Warth County Agricultural Society at the Warth County Fairgrounds. The attached list of events that everybody had in their packet. Do we have a motion?
Sure.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on any of those two items?
Is that motion to approve?
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for both items. Next, report of city officers, mayor. We did have a resignation on the Police and Fire Commission Board, and then we did have somebody step up and ask if we could get them on the board, and I talked to Chief about it, so I'd like to make an appointment of Laura Washer to the Police and Fire Commission Board. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion. She's a former chief in Williams Bay.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for the appointment of Laura Washer. And secondly, I'd just like to thank Lacey and the whole city crew and DPW for yesterday's election. I think everything went good. I heard a lot of good compliments and the parking and everything that was set up. And I think Lacey, it did go good, right?
It went fantastic.
Good. So next, Adam.
It's always great going next after such interesting comments. But yeah, just start off with the stormwater improvement project. The construction of the dry pond near Monica Drive West Court has gone really well. It's pretty much done except for, I guess, installing, or I should say fixing the asphalt kind of on the road. Matt, is that still accurate?
Yes.
Okay. The 2022 street improvement project overall is good, except for we've had issues getting Court Street repaired. They promised they were going to do it today. Did they get done? All right. That is good. All right. Just want to mention too, we had at the Planning Commission meeting last week on Thursday. There were sort of two big items. One, Geronimi Builders came to in support of their application to amend the comp plan and to rezone. The Planning Commission did approve both of those. Since then, we've gotten some traffic impact information, which we've shared with our city engineer, and we'll need to talk with our city engineer about what recommendations they have about how we move forward or not, whether to put that on the agenda for the 21st or whether to push it back to the first meeting in December. Part of that also being the fact that we are going to be missing two council members, or I should say aldermen, next meeting too, so it might be good to move it to the first meeting in December so that you guys all have the opportunity to discuss it. So, which would also give our city engineer more time to provide feedback too on the traffic side of it. So that is the plan unless we hear anything further.
I think it's a great idea.
So that's the plan. The second part of it was the Planning Commission also heard a petition by Special Teams LLC and US 52 Cherry for the annexation and rezoning for the cold storage facility in the business park, or adjacent to the business park and County Road H. And those both were approved as well, and those recommendations will be before the council as well. I guess I'll ask Alderman Payson, can you move it? We can move that one too, yes, okay. So we'll move both of those items to the first meeting in December. And lastly, to follow up on what Lacey already said, the election did go really, really well. I don't think Lacey was being too over complimentary when she said it went excellent. It really did go really, really well. I think it exceeded all of our expectations in terms of how quickly voters were able to get in and out. I don't think there were any lines except for, first thing in the morning, and it was very brief. Parking, surprisingly, we were expecting the parking lot to be, just jam-packed, and it was full at good time, good amount of the time, but DPW had worked up a pretty good traffic flow pattern and had an overflow section in the grassy area, which came in handy a couple times, and they had both PD and DPW had some traffic control personnel available in case of problems. So thanks to both PD and DPW for having personnel here and support. So and as the mayor said, kudos to Lacey and her election team. It was really quite an operation in here. Everybody seemed to be having a good time, and I mean, again, well, I say,
do.
I mean, people seem to be,
It is actually fun.
People seem to be in good spirits, and there weren't really too many problems, so.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Moving on to new business. First, we have the discussion and possible decision regarding the proposed Resolution 22-16, a resolution to replace the wage and salary schedule for all full-time city employees for a step pay structure. I did look at it a little bit, and I did bring a question up to Adam. He called me this morning, and we talked about it a little bit. I was looking at I don't know if you guys noticed, but the fire chief and the police chief, I felt that there was a difference there, and I asked Adam if he could do a little research on that to see why, because the fire chief was a lot lower than what the police chief, and I thought they would be more comparable for being the city. And not to push Rod out, but I know down the road he's gonna be retiring, and I didn't wanna have a problem with bringing somebody new in if we're low, what we'd get for candidates, so. So Adam did a little research, and he can kinda explain, and it's up to you guys if you wanna look at getting that closer or not.
And just for clarification, under the proposal, the fire chief was one pay grade below the police chief, and that was largely what was, I mean, not largely, but that is what was in the previous, or I should say the current city wage schedule, so that's why it partly wasn't changed, because that's what was set in the past. And I told the mayor that in looking at that one, it's hard because there wasn't a clear cut. If I made a recommendation to adjust the pay grade up or down, it's based upon sort of overwhelming evidence from either Lake Geneva study or the Janesville data. This was one of those cases where it really was 50-50. I told the mayor that half the communities I looked at had police chiefs and fire chiefs at the same pay grade. The other half, they were separated by one. So I went with the status quo. Certainly, you're free to change it. For those communities that had them at the same step, the West Bend and the Milwaukee area did a study, and they had them at the same step. Oshkosh, Marshfield, Manitowoc, Green Bay, same study, or I should say the same pay grade. Looked at some other communities around the country just for reference purposes. Virginia Beach, Manassas, Sioux Falls, and Dover all had them at the same level, just for information. Different steps. Lake Geneva study had them at a different step. Appleton, Fitchburg, Stoughton, and Verona. So you can kind of see it was half and half really in terms of communities that I looked at. So
I'm not sure, excuse me, I'm not sure how council feels, or if they want to move forward with what we have, or if they want to look at that again, or not. So I'm just bringing it up so we don't have to do this again down the road if we have to change anything.
I would assume that unless somebody has a different opinion, what the committee voted on was to go forward with this as written. So unless somebody says something different, I believe we should continue to.
Sure, I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess that's my motion, is to go ahead and pass the resolution as originally designed.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussions? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young.
Yes.
Resolution 22-16 passed. Next, we have the public hearing regarding the proposed 2023 municipal budget. I would like to open the public hearing. Anybody here for the public hearing? Nobody here for the public hearing? Then I'll ask a second time if anybody's here for the public hearing. And I'll ask a third time for the public hearing. I do declare the public hearing for the budget, municipal 2023 municipal budget closed. Next, we have the discussion and possible decision regarding the proposed resolution 22-17, a resolution adopting 2023 budget and levy. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so I just want to give the council a brief overview just of the budget, of the total city budget, and then the general fund budget, just because that's most relevant for the tax purposes. We're proposing a total municipal budget of $49,989,518 in revenues, and expenditures of $50,569,537, and you'll see those highlighted at the bottom. The vast bulk of that, of the revenues and expenditures are from the enterprise funds, which you'll see are at $26,879,000 for revenues and $27,663,779 for expenditures. We are proposing using $580,000 in revenue reserves for the to help pay for some of the capital projects. So that's the difference between the revenues and expenditures for 23. Just wanted to look at the special revenue funds and enterprise funds, because those are probably most relevant, or not relevant, but of most interest. You'll see the library proposing a budget of $985,543. You'll see that the risk management, we're showing higher revenues and expenses because of higher employee health care costs and medical costs. So that's the reason for that increase. And then you'll see at the bottom, and this kind of goes to the bigger increase in the revenues and expenses for the enterprise funds. The electric utility, we're having higher costs because of the higher cost of the electric that we buy from Alliant. So because of the power cost adjustment clause, which we pass through those costs to the customers, we are expecting, to be having that higher charge, and that counts as a revenue, but also as a cost because we're bringing the money in and paying it out. So in terms of the general fund, we're proposing a total general fund budget of $8,032,856, which is an increase in about $637,365. You'll see the biggest drivers of the increases for expenditures for the general fund are employee wages, medical expenses, again, medical expenses and the administration costs for the health insurance plan, and then WRS contributions are going up next year because of the stock market's performance going down, so WRS is increasing the percentage that we have to pay for that, and then workers' comp costs are also going up. Just a couple of quick things for the general government. You'll notice that the expenses for general government are going to go down by 7.61%. And the reason for that is two main things. One, a lot of the health and health insurance costs were all kind of budgeted in the general government line for some of the other departments. So to be more accurate, we separated those out to some of the other departments. So to get a more accurate depiction, and then Lacey will be happy about this, but there's no fall election in 23, so the costs for the election administration went down as well for next year.
We need to bring it back in 24 though, so don't forget that.
Don't worry, we got an asterisk next to that. Just to give you a quick sense as to kind of how the general fund budget is allocated by departments. Law enforcement is at the top at $2,409,808. Fire protection at $1,974,920. Public Works $1,654,939. General government $1,395,142. And then recreation at $598,047. And you'll see the pie chart on the right, just kind of giving you a visual of percentages, and law enforcement at 30%, fire protection at 25%, public works at 21%, general government at 17%, and recreation at 7%. So just one good thing we've had for this year, which helped us increase our expenditures, was we got more intergovernmental revenues from the state. So one of those being the expenditure restraint program, which we didn't qualify for to receive in 22, but we didn't qualify to receive this year, but we'll qualify for next year because of the 22 budget. So we are going to get $159,061. We got more general transportation aid, or we'll get more transportation aid next year. an additional $106,444, as well as some additional connecting highway aid. And what was nice too is the general transportation aid, not only are we getting more than we got this year, but the amount that we got this year was actually more than was actually budgeted for '22. So we did a lot better on the general transportation aid, which is also really helping come in handy for next year. And you'll see there's just a little bar graph here showing how the general fund is funded, with real estate taxes being the most at 47%, and then intergovernmental at 20%. Just a couple new initiatives for '23, and this is for the entire municipal budget as a whole. Based upon the council vote tonight, we are going to be implementing a step pay structure for all full-time city employees, excluding police and fire. And then we'll be incorporating the 15% wage increase for firefighters that you approved on September 15th. I mean, it's already been implemented, but that is going to be something, a benefit to the community going forward. We are budgeting for adding a full-time assistant fire chief position. Despite our best efforts to have the current fire chief have a lifetime appointment, I don't think he might be wanting to retire at some point. So in preparation for that, we would like to try and get an assistant, and not just because the fire chief might be leaving, but now the department is full-time and they've got, obviously a full slate of not only full-time firefighters, but EMS, paramedics. It's a much bigger operation right now. And then lastly, we are budgeting $50,000 in the community development fund to potentially hire a full-time zoning administrator when our contract runs out. This will be something the council will have to decide more or discuss more next year, but just it's in the budget. A couple things to improve our administration and finance. One, we're contributing more money we allocated more of real estate taxes, or we're proposing to allocate more real estate taxes to the library, which I know the library has been appreciative of. We are allocating a little more in real estate taxes for the capital equipment replacement fund. We raised that from 120,000 to 152, should say 152, sorry about that. And then we are going to try to acquire new capital improvement planning and budgeting software next year. There's kind of a full package of that, as well as personnel and some other services. There's an electronic budget book that comes with that, so you won't necessarily have we'll still do a paper copy, but we're hoping to kind of make the process a lot more efficient and to have better information that's available to the public, and to require less kind of copying and pasting of Excel spreadsheets around the office that I know, I'm sure Corey and Jesse will agree would be helpful. So less room for error. And then lastly, well, not lastly, but under the admin and finance, we are going to be proposing to switch to having a third party do our employee FSA flexible spending account and HRA, our health reimbursement account administration, which is going to be really helpful for Lacey. I know she's happy about that. We have been doing that in-house. The problem with doing it in-house was that basically Lacey was getting all the receipts from everybody's health reimbursements, which obviously not only was really time consuming, but none of us, no one's an expert as to what qualifies or doesn't qualify. And the administrator, which in this case would be Associated Bank, they will do all that. They will determine if it's qualifies. You'll be able to submit the receipts electronically, and you'll get paid, reimbursed electronically. And they'll also give employees little like debit cards, basically, you can use when you're purchasing your items. So much more efficient process, and it'll be better for protecting public health or protecting employee health information, because no longer is Lacey getting everybody's personal private health data. So that's our proposal, and the cost was only $4 per month per employee to do both FSA and HRA. So that seems like a good deal. And then Public Works, Park and Rec, which I know we may talk about later, but we'll be talking about later. We're going to be getting a leaf vacuum truck, which is something you guys at the council had already approved, but that may allow us to provide the leaf collection services next year for city residents, so that could be a new service. And then Parks and Rec is looking to expand their adult programming and introducing e-gaming activities. Switching to the capital improvement plan, just wanted to highlight a few things. One, you'll see we are budgeting for a lot of capital projects next year, largely a lot of it's water related, which won't be a surprise. We are looking at, and I'll get to it in a second, but this kind of shows you're looking at almost $10 million of potential spending for next year. Granted, a lot of it, we're looking at the safe drinking water and clean water revolving loan programs, which right now they've got a bunch of money because of the bipartisan infrastructure law. So they're encouraging cities to basically submit for as much as possible, which working with FOTH we've done. We submitted, I think, 20 applications for they're looking for providing funding for new water mains, replacing lead service lines, everything. So we put in as many proposals as we could, so that may help eventually cut down to the amount of debt we'd have to borrow up above under the debt proceeds, depending on how those applications go. And then just wanted to highlight a few of the, this kind of gives you the proposed 5-year plan for the CIP. At the top, I just wanted to point out that you won't see it on here, but we are budgeting in '24, or not budgeting, but planning on in '24, getting radios for the police and fire because the county is going to be changing their towers, radio towers. We still need to incorporate the cost for the electric department and DPW as well. You'll see some stars there at the bottom. That's just kind of highlighting a couple of the big projects that we are going to have coming up for streets. Obviously, everybody's aware of the East Centralia and then West Centralia, three-phase project over the next 3 years. And just wanted to highlight under the sewer department, they've got their gravity sewer extension project that's going to be in conjunction with the water treatment plant. And then there's going to be part of the Centralia projects are going to have sewer and water replacements. So I just want to highlight that because those are going to be the sewer department's biggest expenditures. And then you'll see water department, same thing. We've got those big street reconstruction projects as well as their northeastern water treatment plant upgrades and the Lakeland water treatment plant upgrade, and then maybe decommissioning Centralia, but that's going to depend on what happens to our water capacity. And then sort of lastly on the CIP here, next year the light department's going to be starting to replace the street lights with LEDs. And then you'll see the rec department, the remodeling the recreation office. I just want to clarify, it's not that Carl's looking to just add some decorations or anything like that. This is to make their space more usable, because basically one of their office staff members right now is kind of in a closet kind of separated from the main, not gym area, but main recreation area. So they want to basically create an office that would be able to, will be adjacent to that open space, and we'll be able to help supervise and keep an eye on what's going on in there, and that would allow for more supervision. So that's what that remodeling is for. And kind of the last section, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the proposed levy and mill rate. For the total levy, excluding the tax increment and debt service, it would be $4,997,998. We have a levy limit next year of $5,060,866, which is based on our net new construction of 0.415%. The total levy with the debt service would be $7,451,878, and that equals a mill rate of $7.20 per 1,000. That is a decrease of 46 cents from this year. That's the good news. Obviously, the bad news is, and doesn't come as a surprise to anybody in this room, but unfortunately, assessed values are going up. So the assessed values for Elkhorn have increased 12.27%, and this is actually pretty on par with what's happening in southeastern Wisconsin as well as Walworth County. Apparently, according to the Wisconsin Policy Forum, rates in the 7-county southeastern Wisconsin area have gone up by 12.9% in '22. It's almost very close to ours. And then Walworth County as a whole, those values went up by 15.8%. So there's just a big increase across the board. So that's the reason why, in part, why the mill rate's going down. And here you'll just see a chart that again, kind of just, you'll see on the top, that just shows you the increase in equalized property values in the city of Elkhorn for the last, looks like almost 40 years. And our expenditure restraint limit for The '23 budget was 7.9%, and this is the very complicated formula that the state uses, so I just want to give you an idea as to what that formula is like. And we came close to that, but we kept under it, so our proposed budget would be at 7.86%, which is below that 7.9%. And again, this kind of shows you the kind of odd formula that goes into calculating your expenditure restraint limit, and I want to give credit to Corey, because she's the one that calculated our expenditure restraint limit numbers, so thank you, Corey, as well as the levy limit. I cannot take credit for these particular charts. And that sort of closes the little budget and levy summary for you. Again, I do want to give a special thanks to Corey Daly, our finance director, as well as our treasurer, Jesse Bartman, for all their help throughout this budget process. They've been really helpful and great to work with. So with that, I guess I'll take any questions or comments.
Council members, any questions? Thank you, Adam, for all that information and presentation.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Jesse. Any other questions or discussion, or do we have a motion to move forward with resolution 22-17?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Gary Peason Jr.
Yes. Motion approved for resolution 22-17. Next, we have discussion and possible decision regarding proposed amendment number 2 to reduce contract with MSA Professional Services by $3,800 for construction administration services for the Elkhorn ADA Improvements Project. Anybody have any questions? Or do we have a motion?
We had met with MSA some time ago when our contract dollars were shrinked quite a bit and we reduced the scope. So we asked them to take a look at their contract to see if there's a way that they could come up with some cost savings, because there wasn't as much to administer at the end of the day. So this is what they're submitting. And I think it's a reasonable reduction.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Peason Jr.,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody.
Yes. Motion passed for amendment number 2 to reduce the contract by $3,800. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed contract change order number 2 in amount of $20,029 for contract with Shear Construction Company Incorporated for 2022 ADA Improvements Project.
As the mayor had mentioned, this is the same project that we were just speaking about. This is just for the construction portion of it with Shear, our contractor. So built into the project was a $20,000 contingency allowance. So we're not changing the contract sum all that much. It would only end up being $29. So the contract sum will be increased by this change order, the amount of $29. So obviously with the savings from the administration with the engineering, there'd be an overall savings. So, and the description of the changes were shown in the change order that's shown here. A lot of it was at the fire station in the restroom revisions.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Gary Peason Jr.,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Ron Dunwoody.
Motion approved for contract change order number 2 in the amount of $20,029. Discussion and possible decision regarding proposed agreement with Associated and Associated Bank to provide administrative services for city employee flexible spending accounts and health reimbursement accounts. Adam just kind of went over this a little bit. Questions? Any discussion? Or do I have a motion? We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Was that Scott for the second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Ron Dunwoody,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Ken Minell.
Yes.
Motion passed for the agreement with Associated Bank. Next, discussion and possible decision regarding options for leaf collection services in 2023.
I asked for this to be placed on the agenda. I think most of you are aware of that. I guess I want to have a open dialogue now before we get this new piece of equipment. I think that it has been shown that over the last several years, regardless of the vendor we've selected, we have had issues. And I think that's the nicest way we can say it. I'd like to try to set up something, and it's gonna be most likely tasked with suggestions from us, but Matt's obviously gonna have to administer it. What are we gonna do next year when we have some of the similar problems that we had this year, and the year prior, and the year prior, and the year prior, whether it's manpower, whether it's this piece of equipment broke, and now because it's coming from China and COVID, now we can't get the part for another 12 months, what are we gonna do next year to hopefully avoid all the stuff we've been dealing with for the better part of 2 decades in this city regarding leaf collection? And as crazy as it sounds, I think we should throw out any kind of snowball, any kind of an idea that we can think of. Some of the stuff that I spoke briefly with Matt about on a side conversation a couple of days ago was maybe we allow people to rake up their leaves and put them in a bag, put the bag in their grass, not on the road, but leave the bag in the grass so it's not blowing all over the place and we're not getting all these phone calls from all of our neighbors saying, Joe raked his leaves and now they're in my yard and blah, blah, blah. So maybe we should, so I'm just kind of opening up this dialogue so we have something other than let's just hope and pray we don't have the same problem again next year, because if it's predictable, it's preventable. And it's predictable that we're gonna have issues next year again. Maybe not next year, maybe it's 2 years, 3 years down the road. Do we have to have a leaf collection starts on this day and ends on this day? Do we have to do it that way? Because as we know, the leaves don't drop when we start. The leaves drop way after the deadline is passed in some cases. We've had all these different issues, and I just, like I said, I'm not trying to solve the problem tonight. I'm just saying, if you've got something to think about, if you've got an idea, unless Matt wants to do it some way differently, we send it to your email and say, hey, and maybe you come back to us in a month or 2, whatever it takes, with a draft. Here's what we're gonna do. And like I said, simple as if we're 3 days behind on the schedule, this is what's gonna happen. Right now, we don't have really anything except us begging and pleading for Matt to just pull people off of their regular jobs and backfill these people. What's gonna be the trigger for that? So I just want it on the agenda. Like I said, I don't plan to solve all the world's problems today, but I don't want to be here again next year dealing with this again.
Totally agree with you, Scott. I mean, I had the same phone call from the same gentleman last year, and then he called me this year about the same street, and I've talked to Matt, which Matt was very helpful. He talked to him, got it straightened out. And they got it straightened out finally last Saturday, and it was our crew doing it. The gentleman sent me pictures and thanked us for our crew and doing it, and I passed it on to Matt and said, please pass it on to the guys too. Because, I mean, are we done with them in 23? No, still?
Our contract goes through 23, but we'll have a leaf, right now I'm being told that we should receive our leaf vac unit by March. So that would allow us to do spring collection if we believe that that's the day that we get it.
Like I said, what would be the harm with people putting their leaves if they don't want to rake them to the curb and then put them in plastic bags and let a work truck come by and just grab 2 bags instead of having to, scrape and make all that noise and do whatever. I don't know. I don't know why more people don't go down to the compost site and dump their leaves down there. That's what I do. Because I know as soon as I rake them in a half a day, they're either back in my yard or they're in my neighbor's yard. Most people don't do that. Is there some kind of an incentive for them to do it that way? And I know that sounds crazy too. How would we track it? How would we count me out for picking up leaves? I'll take them down myself, and I get some kind of a credit because you're not coming to my house to pick up leaves. Again, I'm just spitballing here, trying to come up with some solutions for next year. Because the problem is not gonna go away. So,
I would like to bring our plan back to the council for review as far as how we plan to execute it for '23 in the spring and fall. And we could further the discussion then. We'd like,
would it be a big deal to have you guys come by it in a regular pickup truck, work truck, whatever vehicle, and just grab bagged leaves? Not the paper bags that fall over and spill out, but they actually tie it in a knot and twist tie it. And they're not in the road, like some people like to do. That's another issue, is they're blowing their leaves from the curb into the middle of the road. We deal with that all the time. They don't keep them 12 inches from the curb. You know, and who enforces that? You know, the leaf police? I mean, I don't know. Sincerely, I mean, you know, people call us on these things. I mean, how many phone calls have you guys gotten this year?
Too many.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, anything we do that'll be a little, even if it's 5% better than this year, I'm all for that. And like I said, as crazy as it sounds, I'd rather see 10 bags of leaves in some 55-gallon garbage can on the curb or in the easement there, the terrace, if your yard, and let you guys come by quick and throw them in a truck and they go to the compost site. Right now, that's not an option. We're not allowed to do that.
But when they get to the compost site, they gotta come out of the bag. Yeah.
Agreed. And I've seen those garbage bags in there too. You're right. They're supposed to shake them out, but some people don't.
Another problem that we have is not meeting the schedule. We put it out saying we're gonna show up on Friday, and we don't.
Right.
That is the biggest thing, and out in my area where there's tons of leaves, you know, I get phone calls that all that pile is gonna end up in my front yard. If we get a good wind, it's all moving.
Right. And last week when it was 50-mile-an-hour gale winds certainly didn't help our predicament.
Correct. Thankfully, they had already done it
In your subdivision.
in my subdivision, but we're piled up again.
Right.
Just hint, hint.
So, I know there's not much we can do now with this current company, except thank God Matt's able to pull a few of his people off and help them do their job.
yeah, we've had a number of thank yous come through since our crews got involved in it on Saturday and otherwise in emails from other people too, so, yeah.
Can I ask, Matt, typically, you said the contract goes through 2023, but typically we'll write in a notice time period that you'd have to meet to opt out of the year of a contract. Do we have that clause in this one?
It's not specific to a certain service within within the current contract, but I don't think that they would have any issues opting out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we wouldn't have to worry about a suit if we tried to get out of it.
It's broken down per week. I think Adam had it listed in his memo that I think it's like $3,600 a week for collection. So.
Well, I was gonna,
I'll do it in my pickup truck for $500.
It's on record.
If they're bagged, I'll pick them up.
do I have a motion for that? Matt, if you could, let's, maybe bring it back to second meeting in December, like you're proposed, and then the council has a month to think about any ideas too, and we'll see how it comes back.
Like I said, if you guys got any ideas, you know, either share them now, or if something comes to you or whatever, send them out to Matt.
I do have a question for the council, and I just, in talking with other DPW directors from other municipalities, are we set? Would you still like to see a schedule? A lot of municipalities don't have a schedule where your day is Friday, just because you don't know necessarily, you start at a route, you have a route in mind. Our crews execute the city in a particular way, but do you want to see a specific day for collection?
The problem with that is right now, the civic collection little booklet thing that we all get, it says you're not supposed to put them out on the curb until 24 hours before. Nobody follows that.
Yeah, I
They
would
just don't. And then, of course, you look on the little sketch, the little colored map that you and I talked about on the phone, and that says your day. Well, everybody and their brother knows that it's my subdivision and that's my day and you're not here. So,
I think most, and I don't want to speak for everybody, and I think that a lot of people just put their leaves out when they can.
yeah,
You know, not necessarily when their day is, but when they're able to, when the
Yeah.
weather allows them to, when the leaves are down.
Yeah.
So I'd say, and again, I'll propose a plan, but I guess thinking at it right now is that put them out as you generate them, and then we'll collect them, but not necessarily on a specific day.
As long as we pick it up. As if they're sitting there, then we got a problem.
Okay?
I would like to see the approximate man hours it would take to patrol the city every single day picking up leaves. Because how are you gonna know to come to North Washington and Fourth? Is
Yeah.
every day someone gonna go by North Washington and Fourth and pick up my leaves?
No, we would start it again in one section of town, and we'd have like a map that we use internally.
Right, but with that one truck, could you hit the whole city like every single day or whatever? I mean, not every
No.
single day, but like every third day they'll be coming through my subdivision.
I don't
Every
think-
fifth day, every ninth day. That's the kind of minutia that I need. So when we get these phone calls, we can tell people, the last time they were on our street, it was 72 hours ago. Based upon Matt's dissertation, you'll see them in the next 48 hours. Oh, great, that helps me a lot, Scott, because right now we can't tell them anything.
Yeah, and the good news is that, we could work overtime on it too. We could work on a Saturday, we could work on a Sunday. Even if we have to stockpile the leaves because the dump site's closed, we could do things like that. And also too, the crews that we had, they didn't have a leaf vac with them. They used a loader and basically a skid steer, a tool cat, and street sweep behind them.
Yep.
So we could have 2 crews going with the leaf vac unit, so. I think there's a lot of ways that we could keep up. It would take away from other things that we do during this time of the year, like set up for election. We would continue to do that.
You have 1 year to get it figured out.
And all kidding aside, that's exactly what I want to see in this. I want to see in this proposal. If this happens, this is what you're going to lose in services.
Okay.
We're not putting up the lights for Christmas and up, the garland and whatever. We can't do that because we're too busy collecting leaves right now. Because the leaves are, I think for most of us, are more important than whether or not the Christmas garland goes up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just a bigger deal, especially, with our weather. You never know if it's gonna snow, the gutters are gonna be frozen or clogged full of leaves. Anyway, I said I was done and I'm not.
You do. So we'll have it on the second meeting in December, Matt, you'll bring back, and
Yeah.
if anybody has anything forward to Matt in between, go ahead.
That would be great. If you have suggestions or if you have thoughts or ideas or things that you hear within your district, that'd be helpful.
We'll have your presentation done.
And Matt, why don't you ask your team what they think?
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that gotta do it.
Absolutely. They will be involved in that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, discussion and possible decision regarding proposed Warwick County ordinance amending Chapter 66 of the Warwick County Code of Ordinances relating to all-terrain vehicles and utility terrain vehicle routes. Adam went to a meeting about this, right?
Yes, I did. I went to the ICC meeting, which they have every 6 months, and this was one of the topics, and they had actually emailed Lacey asking, if the city had a position on this, which we obviously said, well, we'll have to talk to the council to find out what the city position is, which they seemed a little annoyed about, but, so, anyway, they, basically for this proposed ordinance, it's to address the ATVs, UTVs, and apparently, right now, under state law, according to the county, and Ward, please feel free to jump in if the county's interpretation is not what you would agree with. But they say right now, if a city adopts an ordinance allowing or not allowing, for that matter, ATVs, UTVs on their roads, that automatically pulls in the county and state roads in their jurisdiction if it's 35 mile per hour or less. So the county is proposing to adopt an ordinance that would not only incorporate all the state laws regarding ATVs and UTVs, particularly with respect to like definitions and that kind of stuff, but they would expand it by saying if a city in Walworth County adopts a ATV, UTV ordinance, it's going to apply to all county roads in your jurisdiction regardless of speed limit. And then, so they said you would be able to exclude roads if you wanted to, but it wouldn't matter the speed. So that was really the main takeaway from this proposed ordinance, so.
What?
We basically have to decide if we're gonna let them drive in the city limits.
Right.
Or exclude all roads in the city. I'm in favor of excluding them from city limits. You wanna do it in the town of Walworth or the town of Sharon or whatever on a town road, that's your bailiwick, but I think it is a bad idea to introduce them into the city streets. I guess I'd like to hear what the chief has to say. That's my opinion.
I really don't have any position. I would see it not a whole lot different than a motorcycle, really, Scott. I don't know if you're gonna see a lot of use, just because we're not very rural, but I don't think it'd be any concerns as far as traffic safety goes.
So you probably see it out, like out here, out by me, you're gonna probably, will see more of it, but you're not gonna see it downtown. So is county plan on putting a trail system in?
No, and again, their point is basically, if the cities want to allow it, fine, but now you're going to allow, basically it's going to apply to all county roads unless you say otherwise, and you're responsible for paying and installing all the signage, notifying anybody of what those county speeds are, you're responsible for all the costs for the signage for county roads too. That was part of it. And I think,
So if we say no, we need to draft an ordinance for that, is that, or no?
if you say no to what they're proposing, or,
If, like Scott said, if he made a motion to propose no on any streets, do we have to make an ordinance for that then, or how does that work?
it's currently not permitted under city code as far as I'm aware. I mean, I looked, I didn't see anything saying it's currently permitted. So right now, we wouldn't even really be, you'll actually see right there, actually, thank you. I don't know if Matt, you pulled that up, but there's currently a list right now of the cities in Walworth County that have ATV, UTV ordinances, either mostly permitting it, maybe one or two that don't permit it. We're not in that, so right now, it doesn't really impact us. It's more of so, I guess, if you hypothetically if the city in the future were to, approve one allowing it, would you want county roads to be included, regardless of their speed limit? And that's really, I think, the crux of the matter
These are all villages and townships. Are there any cities that have adopted this?
that I'm aware of, at least not in the county.
So if we remain silent on it, it's not allowed.
In the city?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So really, we need no decision on this.
Okay.
Correct. They just wanted to know if you had an opinion about the county's potential ordinance addressing it.
There would be, just to make sure I'm getting this, there would be a cost to the city based on the county's ordinance, even if we didn't allow them within the city, because there would be roads that we have, there would be signage that would have to be applicable to us or not?
My understanding is that we would only be responsible for the signage if we approved it and allowed ATVs, UTVs in the.
No cost to the city?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Okay,
So,
then I agree.
So we do nothing.
Any other question or discussion on that?
I guess really just if the council wants to, what would you like our response to the county to be on this proposed ordinance? Whether, if you don't want to take a position at all, that's fine. Just give us some guidance if you want us to convey something back to the county.
You're saying that we want to opt out. That's what I'm hearing anyway.
Not interested. And next, we have discussion and possible decision regarding installation of sidewalk and concrete pavement versus HMA pavement as part of Centralia Street Reconstruction Project, phases 1 through 3.
I'm gonna let Mike from Gafur cover this one. I just wanted to mention before we kind of get into the discussion that currently within the budget for 2023, which includes the portion of Centralia from Lincoln to just east of 43, we have sidewalk incorporated into the budget. We do not have concrete pavement. So it does include sidewalk, does not include concrete pavement. I just wanted everybody to be aware of that as we start to get into the finances of it all. So.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. As you guys probably realize, Centralia, we are in the beginning stages of the design on Centralia, East Centralia, that is. As Adam alluded to earlier, it's a three-phase project beginning 2023, going on to 2024 and 25. So the first phase is East Centralia from Lincoln to just east of I-43. Second phase would be 43 to H. It'll also include Mackenzie Lane from Centralia to Proctor. And the last phase in 2025 would be West Centralia, Devendorf to Lincoln. So Matt had requested that we take a look at some cost analysis and some pros and cons for the addition of sidewalk. Currently there is sidewalk, and he pulled up the map there. The areas in red are kind of the and this is kind of basic because it's a large map, of course, but the areas in red are the existing sidewalk. Mostly it's in residential areas. There is some in some of the businesses, but we basically narrowed it down to the residential areas have some sidewalk, not all. And then the green would be the additional sidewalk that we are talking about. So obviously, looking at the map, a considerable amount of additional sidewalk would be required to have sidewalk on the entire stretch. So the other phase that we discussed would be the utilization of concrete pavement versus asphalt pavement. So currently, as I stated, there's some sidewalk out there, and the roadway is built out of asphalt. So we have the budget to place asphalt back in, replace the existing asphalt with asphalt. Matt had asked, or we've been discussing the option to place concrete pavement instead of asphalt. And within this memo is some pros and cons on that as well. So I guess I'll stick with the sidewalk. Some of the pros are probably pretty obvious. For sidewalk would be, big thing is safety, pedestrian safety, traffic safety, and connectivity. Connects you from one side of the city to the other. There's parks. Some of the purple on the map shows, some of the attractions in the city, Bateman Park, to the one side, the Sunset Park on the other side, obviously the city downtown area. We don't have sidewalk everywhere in the city, but this is a large stretch of roadway that if we place sidewalk, will connect you from one side to the other. With that being said, it is industrial, so it's a little bit different, of course. The other thing we noted in the purple or pink, whatever color that is the connectivity to the trail system. So connectivity is a pro. Another pro, go ahead.
I just want to jump in real quick too. Is the main reason that we wanted to look at it too is for connectivity to Bateman Park. We've often heard that there's maybe not a safe route out there, so sidewalk would provide a safe route. Another option that we could consider, like along Proctor currently, is a bike lane too. If we decided that the council decided that the sidewalk was a lot of money and it would potentially make a lot of people upset that they would have to maintain it, then a bike path might be a good option in order to get you out to Bateman Park. And that's basically just extra pavement marking in the roadway. So.
Yeah, good point. So that would, like Matt said, would include like a 4-foot lane like you see on Proctor if you guys have seen that. The other pro might be a convenience if it's there connecting to your house or business or whatnot. It's convenient. You can hop right on the sidewalk and go. Health benefits I threw in there. I encourage people to exercise. Some of the cons, obviously, and I think these are all kind of obvious. Expense is the big one, and maintenance, which is also an expense for homeowners or business owners to maintain that when it fails. And snow removal. Most of you probably have sidewalk in front of your house, or a lot of you anyway. That's a concern as well. So with the dollar amount, what we did was provided just a cost for the sidewalk, not the existing sidewalk, just the additional sidewalk. So we are planning to place sidewalk where it existed already regardless. This would be a cost for the additional sidewalk. That's on the when I read this, I realized it's kind of out of order. I should have put it a little bit different, so I apologize for that. So 2023, this is a large area, so it is pretty expensive. 2023, $225,000 is a rough estimate, and I do want to warn you that the budgeting and cost estimating has gotten really difficult in the last year or two, as you guys can imagine. So can't really guarantee those numbers, but should be a pretty close number. 225,000 in the first year, 159 in the second, and 239 in the third year. 2024 is a little shorter distance, which is why it's less expensive. I don't know if you want me to go through the concrete or if there's questions now on the sidewalk. We can go to the concrete pavement next. Or do you want me to just go through all of it?
Council, you have any questions on the sidewalk?
So obviously, I'm sorry. So obviously when we're doing the design, we got a lot to look at and how it's gonna look and where it's gonna go exactly. But go ahead. Sorry.
So, you're looking at doing concrete sidewalks.
Correct.
How, who maintains the path from the courthouse to the city? The county does, and that's all blacktop. Have we seen how that's wearing? Are they having issues where they're having to replace it? I know,
We've only had it a couple of years.
but, 9 times out of 10 I drive through there, I don't see anybody. And I've ridden through the industrial park going into town, and, I could see doing a bike lane, but I can't see blowing, $600,000 on sidewalks, especially at the cost of it, the way concrete's going, et cetera. And the bike lane, I've been on the one on Proctor. Again, there's not really anybody out there. We'll connect it. But, spending that kind of money, especially when we're raising everybody's taxes the way we just did tonight, let's be smart about what we're spending it on, if we're gonna get any use out of it. I ride that road on a bicycle, and I see like no cars, nothing. So a bike lane would suffice, because then you could walk in it and you can ride in it and save the taxpayers some money, in my opinion.
There might be a law on the bike lanes that would prevent you from walking in it, but I'll check that, just to be sure.
I'm not really worried about getting pulled over and getting a ticket for walking there.
Just saying. Joel would do that.
So your motion is to forego the sidewalks?
Well, once he continues on, then we can finish it up.
Okay. Sounds like you made up your mind. I figured I'd save you some time.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll make a motion not to include the sidewalks in this project and do the bike lane,
I mean, if you go back to the map for a second.
other than the existing ones that are already in place.
Okay, but I just want to bring up a point.
Okay, wait for a second here. Before
Oh,
discussion.
Did he make the motion?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, then a second, please.
I'll take a second.
Okay, now I can. Thank you, Scott.
It's not a pretty face.
So, back in the, in the residential area back here, there's only a couple, the red, but there is other residential area that's not right now. And in our ordinance, I think it states that we have to put in sidewalks unless didn't we go through this with West Lawn years ago, Scott? You were on.
Yeah, we have both a policy statement and a philosophical statement that we would put in sidewalks in any and all residences that we could.
And especially when we redo the roads.
Right.
They will be
Right.
done when we redo roads.
But we have made exceptions as we did in Green Acres.
That was because of the width and everything, but
Correct.
in city streets, we didn't make any exceptions. And West Lawn, I remember, was a big topic, and they were very upset that we put them in. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right things, because it's gonna come back and haunt us if we don't.
I agree. I agree with his motion, but my counter offer, I guess, would be to keep and maintain the ones that are already in place in the residential streets, and I'm pretty sure that's where you were
Yes,
going.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But,
So,
but if you look at the map, I mean, some of it's still residential in the green, that there's no sidewalks currently.
Well, and looking at most of those, because I've ridden down here on my way to Sunset Park, a lot of that is basically industrial as well. So,
I mean, I'm just bringing up points of,
So if I could mention something, some of the, I don't know if, Mayor, if you're talking about on the far west side there, one side of the street is green and one is red,
yeah,
by Devendorf.
yep.
So I, at this point, don't know exactly for sure, but there are areas that are gonna be really difficult to place sidewalk, so there is that. So if that's a difficult area or not, I'm not certain right now, but I just wanted to mention that there could be areas that we physically would be very costly to place it, you know, things in the way, buildings in the way, pipe, or utility poles, that kind of thing, so.
I think too, for this section of West Centralia, it could be something where, this is the stage where you're gonna have the most residential that doesn't have sidewalk. So this isn't gonna be constructed until 2025. You probably got some time. I don't know. The reason I wanted to bring it up for this specific phase is that if you're gonna do it, I'm assuming that you probably wanna extend it all the way to Babe Man Park, and not just do half of it to 43 and as kind of a sidewalk to nowhere. So I think 23s were kind of played it.
Walk to nowhere.
Kind of
Sidewalk ends.
Sounds like a bad country album.
probably is. So I think 23's work affects 24. And same thing with the concrete pavement, obviously, too. If you're gonna choose to do concrete, you probably wanna do it in all 3 sections. For sidewalk, I think definitely sections 2 and 3 are somewhat, or sections 1 and 2, which should be 23 and 24. I think those are kind of the decisions should be coupled. But as far as the third phase being west of Lincoln, that's one that we could probably talk about, certainly at some point again about the residential area. I just wanted to mention that, that's all.
Right now, we have a motion for all 3 phases, though.
I can amend my motion to, can you go back up on the map? Which one are you doing it? Not have the sidewalk beyond the existing sidewalk that's already there on phase 1 and 2, and have the bike lane. Would be my motion.
Install a bike lane?
Install a bike lane and only the sidewalk that is already there on phase 1 and 2.
We have a motion, amended motion. Scott, do you want to amend your second
Sure,
to include that?
yes.
Any further discussion or questions on the sidewalk?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Sure.
may.
Yes, go right ahead.
Alderman Page, the only thing, I think you may want to consider where that red is from Lincoln now over to Jackson in this first phase you're talking about. I think it may be beneficial to at least extend it to Getson Street, because you do have all of those multifamily off of Lewis and Hartwell as well as Harmony, that if you were to at least extend that by where Palmer Hamilton is on that north side, that would give them connectivity all the way over to Lincoln Street where they don't have anything now. So you may want to just at least consider that portion to extend that connectivity.
I don't believe we have sidewalk on Gadsden though. But
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a future item of discussion.
Yeah, could I do the motion without having a cost? I'd be fine with that.
What do you mean?
As far as, well, right now we don't have, we're talking about sidewalk costs, et cetera. If we make the motion to have the sidewalk go to Getson,
I think it's right now, we're in the motion for design phase, right? So they know how far to design, is that correct?
Yeah.
So there's not really a dollar amount, it's just
Okay.
in the designing, do we want to put the effort to do the sidewalk all the way, and then council says no later?
all right, then I will amend my amended motion. I can't wait to
see these minutes. And I'll amend my amendment to the second motion, I think.
Yes.
So extend it to Getson Street,
Yes.
the way the chief described.
Yes.
Council, you heard the amended motion. Do we have any further questions or discussion on that?
No, there's no, you can,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for the sidewalk for phase 1 and 2. Look at phase 3 later. Now, go ahead.
Just as far as a bike lane, do we need to have a motion for that or?
well, that was included in the motion as I understood it.
It was.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
So, yep.
All right, so moving on to the concrete pavement versus asphalt pavement. So the existing, as I mentioned, is asphalt. Some of the pros, I think, again, might be obvious. Concrete pavement does last longer. It's gonna hold up better to heavy traffic, which an industrial park is. We are still in the early stages of design. We wanna look at some of the traffic numbers and the truck numbers. But asphalt, or I mean, excuse me, concrete generally requires less repair until it breaks down and the end of its life. Then it is a bigger repair than asphalt, if that makes sense. Some of the cons for concrete seem a little bit more numerous. Currently, concrete availability is not good, so I assume that's not going to last forever. I'm hopeful that next year concrete is a little bit easier to get and the prices don't go skyrocketing, but at this point I really don't have a good answer there. So it's a bit unpredictable. Concrete is more expensive to place. It's more expensive to replace. If you're doing a full reconstruct, you have to remove a lot more material to get concrete out of there. It's a little bit more manpower needed. Concrete cure time is longer than asphalt. Asphalt, you can drive on it the next day during construction. So it's that's a minor con to me, but it's a bit rougher and louder ride typically, not always. I don't think you really have to worry about that here. It's 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, I believe, or 35. Also, concrete isn't as simple to repair, so like a typical repair that the DPW could do on an asphalt, they could do it on a concrete if they were just placing an asphalt patch in a blowout or something. But when you're talking about a actual concrete repair, it is a little bit more specific, not as simple as going out there and throwing some shovels of asphalt in the ground. Snow melt, I mean, that's kind of a minor one again with slow speeds, but snow doesn't melt as quickly on concrete as it does on black asphalt. And the last thing I have there, and there's, I'm sure, more pros and cons obviously than I listed, but simple mill and overlay on an asphalt project can be beneficial to just mill off 2 inches of asphalt, place 2 inches of asphalt back on. Concrete is a little bit more to it than that. And you know, when I ended up writing this, the pros and cons, I had a short list of pros and a long list of cons. I don't want that to deter one way or the other necessarily. I just think that the pros, I guess, are more impactful than some of the cons, if that makes sense. But I did want to show you everything that I was thinking anyways. Certainly concrete is a good option for the longevity of a project, but it is a huge expense. So we did put together some pricing for asphalt versus concrete, and I have some backup document in here, but the bottom line, I think you could just read that. The bottom 3 lines there show the difference in cost. So concrete would cost you more than asphalt by $471,000 in the first year, $403,000 and $402,000. That's a huge number. I, again, am not real confident, I'll be honest with you, not real confident on the concrete numbers right now, just because of the availability of concrete. I know that's not probably very settling, but I just wanted to be honest with you.
Matt, what's the overwhelming majority of our streets made of in the city? Is it a mixed bag, 50-50, or?
I'd say asphalt, 90-10,
That's what I thought.
if I were to guess, which is maybe even 95-5. North Wisconsin is concrete pavement. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, I think some of the more recent, we looked to concrete. I want to say Randall was replaced with concrete. South Church, I want to say, was concrete. So some of the more recent projects, you've been leaning towards concrete, just because I think of the life expectancy.
Right.
Cost changed quite a bit too. They were talking about it at the time when they put church in. I know they were saying it was actually less expensive to do the concrete at that point.
There was that point in time where asphalt prices were so high, oil prices were so high that it was almost worth just going with concrete. And that may have been the era that they were putting in concrete.
I should point out too that under chapter 8 of our ordinances, 02 for location and sidewalks in general, we're required to have concrete sidewalks. We'd have to amend our ordinance if we're gonna do asphalt ones, which is no problem, we just have to do that.
I think before we make any decision, we should understand what the truck traffic's gonna be. You know, what our long-term plan is for the industrial park. Is there more places to develop? What type of trucks are we gonna see coming through there? Because if we're not gonna see a lot of heavy trucks going through there, what's the point of spending the extra money at this point in time? Since concrete is so much more expensive now than what it used to be. I'm all for concrete, but right now it's really, really expensive. And if we're not gonna get the value out of it, but the road is just sitting there with not a lot of truck usage, what's the point? So I think we should understand that before we do that.
I think that's a good comment. And one of the things too, we're early enough, certainly in the design, where, you know, we don't have to have that answer immediately. It's relatively simple to change, you know, there's other changes that we would need to do for the design, but what we could do in the meantime is obviously, which was what we were planning, to look at the truck traffic and the overall vehicle traffic. But also, it would we have some opportunity with DOT lettings coming out recently. We can look at some of those prices of concrete versus asphalt projects, maybe give us some kind of light on what it's gonna look like. Also, I'm hoping that the Concrete Institute will be looking, I know they are looking at it, but maybe we'll be able to get a little bit better feel of that for next spring as well, so.
How much effort would there be in putting together an alternate bid for concrete pavement? I mean, I know the profile looks a lot different. There would be extra things that you guys would have to build into the plan set, but how much involvement would there be? How difficult would it be?
Well, I think the big thing is quantities, so yeah, I mean, we could do it.
I know it would come with a price tag, I'm sure, but, because I've been through design and I know that a lot of things change when you're going through it again and looking at the profile, and but that's an option too, is to maybe look at bidding both. The other thing that we could do, right now it's a difference of $471,000. If we're not doing, if the council is choosing not to do the sidewalk, there's a savings, because again, currently within the budget for 23, that $225,000 is embedded into that budget. So you're almost halfway there. We just opened bids for our Market Street project, and that came in, the construction cost estimate is $1.65 million, and it actually came in at $1.07 million. So there's some savings there. If we want to go back and look at this further as far as, you know, cost goes and what was budgeted, to see if it would cover it, if the council's interested in concrete, we could certainly do that. And then maybe at that time, they would be a little bit farther down the road as far as what the traffic impacts would be out there.
I just want to say that's not savings.
No,
It's not spending the money, which, again, we just went through this whole budget thing, so if we don't spend as much of the people's money, that's a good thing, which means we can give some of it back, which means we lower their taxes, right? So this is not a savings. It's called reducing what we actually need. So that's one of the things we got to start paying attention to, because we're all going to hear about 12% increases in their property taxes. And if they hear stuff like this, because they're all on the video, talking about savings of sidewalks and all this kind of stuff, it's going to get out of hand. So we got to be very smart about the people's money, in my opinion.
Mike, would you have a traffic or truck study like for next month? Would you be able to bring it back that we could look at it so you'd still be able to move forward?
Yeah, I think so. So I think if you gave
Maybe
us.
like the second meeting of next month? That gives you about a month to.
Yeah.
Would you have it?
Yeah, we would want that by then.
would council be okay with that if we move it to that when he brings back for,
Yes.
you can know what trucks and stuff will be going on it? Okay. I don't think we need a motion for,
Do you want to go ahead and see what the cost would be for both materials in the meantime too? Do an open bid for both?
I don't think we do the bids until we get the whole project
Well,
done, right?
A
Is that how that
quote-
works,
A quote
or-
without doing a bid, you know, a formal bid. You know, concrete is us and asphalts are us, what would it cost, you know, get it, right now, we're guessing how much this concrete's gonna be, right?
I think he's,
Based on what we know now, yeah.
I think he's going off
That's
prices.
today's, like, right now, if we bought it today,
These
That's what he's
numbers,
projecting.
these numbers, Mike, that the 1 million, if we bought concrete today for this project, is that how you're saying?
Yeah.
okay,
So they are numbers for today.
okay.
Okay.
And again, that could change in a week or a month or a year, but, okay, got it, never mind.
So we'll bring it back to the second meeting next month for this part of the portion. Council's okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Do we have a second?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.